First Minister Mark Drakeford criticises the British government's response to Ukraine's growing refugee crisis. Cardiff donation centres are closing as volunteers aren't able to keep up with public support. And to tease or not to tease, that's the question for residents in one street in Cathays. Good afternoon, this is CJS News at 4:30. I'm Caris Lewis. The First Minister's made a scathing attack on the UK government's response to the escalating refugee crisis in Ukraine. This comes after it was revealed the UK has only taken in 50 refugees from the country, with hundreds being turned away at Calais. Claire Bode has been at First Minister's Questions and joins us now from the Senedd. Claire, what has been the reaction from the Senedd to this growing crisis?
Well, all four parties in the Senedd do seem to agree on one thing: something needs to happen. Adam Price of Plaid Cymru even asking, where is the humanity of the UK government? And saying that on this International Women's Day, his thoughts with the Ukrainian women who have left everything behind just to be turned away at Calais. Mark Drakeford seemed to agree with the Plaid leader, saying that the government's reaction will damage the UK on the international stage.
What we desperately need is to see those intentions translated into services on the ground that those people can use, and can use in a way that recognises the circumstances which they now face. The accounts of what has happened in Calais have damaged the reputation of this country around the world.
What has the First Minister's reaction been to the decision of the UK government?
Well, the First Minister spoke of the Home Secretary's statement saying they were sending a team to help in Calais, and said that that simply wasn't true, even describing it as nothing more than 3 people, a box of Kit Kats and some crisps. The government said he said the government should replicate the generosity shown up and down the country, with people donating food, clothing and money to help with this humanitarian crisis, and said that it's only fair for the people to expect their government to show the same compassion.
The level of generosity shown here in Wales, but across the United Kingdom, to people who now need our help is absolutely, striking, isn't it?
And how are the Welsh Government planning on helping?
Well, Mark Drakeford said Downing Street must ensure a simple, swift, safe and legal route to the UK. He also asked for the government to allow flexibility to the Senedd to do things their way. Wales prides itself on being a nation of sanctuary, and Mark Drakeford will be doing everything he can to ensure that extends to Ukrainian refugees also. Claire Bode, CJS News.
Pop-up donation centres for Ukraine in Cardiff have had to close their doors after being overwhelmed by support. The sites don't have enough space to store their donations or vans to drive them to the main collection depot, as Fergus Harris reports.
I'm at a vet's clinic in Llanishen, one of many places in Cardiff that have been receiving donations to send to the Polish border with Ukraine. Since Russia's invasion began almost 2 weeks ago, hundreds of people have been donating much-needed supplies to pop-up centres like this.
At the back of the vet's clinic, we've got all the donations they've received. We've got water, we've got a lot of food, things like soup, baked beans, cereal, pasta, dry food. We've also got baby products. Now this stuff is in really high demand. Most of the people crossing the border are women and children, and this stuff is really vital. We've also got a lot of winter clothes, warm winter clothes. It is freezing temperatures there at the moment, and most people have had to leave their homes with only the things they can carry. So this stuff is really, really important. I've been told this is only a fraction of what the vets received initially, and this is only one of many in the area that have been collecting.
This shop in Adamsdown started off taking local donations, but it quickly turned into one of Cardiff's main drop-off points for Ukrainian aid.
Journalists have been using my personal information without my permission or my knowledge. Using screenshots from social media, they have published, among other people, my own personal details and my phone number. I'm being contacted by companies like HSBC, IKEA and Lloyds Bank. Big corporations collecting within their staff are bringing their items to me here. We don't have space for that. It was initially only supposed to be a collection point for the Polish community here, but we are taking everything we can.
Łukasz, like so many donation organisers in Cardiff, doesn't have the transport or drivers to get donations to the depot in Newport.
We take the organised items we receive and we put them on the vans. My friends who have vans have been helping me. I asked them last week to help me with the transport of the items, because there were so many, and take them to Newport. We did 5 journeys each that day.
The yellow and blue of solidarity with Ukraine can be seen across the city. Cardiffians have come together to rally behind Ukrainians in their time of need.
The initial support from the people of Cardiff to the people of Ukraine has been really strong, and donation centres have been left overwhelmed. It looks like going forward this support's not going to end anytime soon, but we need more organisation to get supplies to the border. Fergus Harris, CGS News.
In other news, every health board across Wales will now have one specialist endometriosis nurse each. The condition affects 1 in 10 women in Wales. Phoebe Reddin reports.
Endometriosis is a chronic pain condition that can affect any woman of any age. It's when tissue, which is similar to the lining of the womb, grows elsewhere, like the fallopian tubes or ovaries. This can be extremely debilitating for women, as it causes severe pain. Despite this, women often struggle to be diagnosed.
So I went to the doctors and they just were really reluctant to give me an appointment a few times. So my mum just thought it would be a good idea to get a referral letter from my GP and just go privately, because it takes over your life almost. Like, you have to base your whole day around like the symptoms of it.
The Welsh Government have announced today that every health board across Wales will have an extra specialised nurse to help specifically with endometriosis. However, this may not be as effective as it seems. Wales only actually have 7 health boards, so it will mean only an extra 7 specialised nurses to help with a female population in Wales of over 1.5 million. Therefore, some medical staff believe more still needs to be done.
And the pain that some of these patients are getting is so severe and so debilitating, and it is a chronic pain condition, because endometriosis, it gets worse every period cycle, but then it can also, because of the nature of the disease, it can be bad all the time. These people need to be helped out on the mental health side of things, because it's a lot for someone to deal with.
There is no cure, but a diagnosis helps women to find the support they need. And despite the high rate of endometriosis across the UK, 62% of women aged 16 to 24 years old are still not aware of the condition. Phoebe Reddin, CGS News.
Graduations at Cardiff University may be back, but a petition has been signed by more than 4,000 people complaining about new plans. The COVID backlog means students will now stand up as a subject group at the Principality Stadium instead of walking across the stage individually. A graduate from the university says the event no longer feels special.
There are some people that have done nursing degrees. They were on the literal front line of COVID. They deserve more recognition than ever. There are people whose families are coming over from Australia, from abroad. And I just can't help but imagine, like my auntie's in Australia, if she came to graduation and came all the way to Wales to see me kind of stand up in a group and get congratulated like that, I'd be quite embarrassed, to be honest.
On International Women's Day, the Welsh Paralympic gold medalist Baroness Tanni Grey-Thompson has been appointed as the new chair of Sports Wales. She's won 16 medals and has held over 35 world records. Grey-Thompson starts her new post in July and is taking over from Lawrence Conway, who's been in the role for 5 years. Also in sport, Wales are considering leaving Wyn Jones out of the team for this weekend's Six Nations game against France. The loosehead failed to make a single metre in the last week's game against England. Former Cardiff Blues player James Down has quit playing for Russian team Lokomotiv Penza following the invasion of Ukraine. He says he doesn't politically agree with Russia's actions and no longer feels comfortable playing for the club. And finally, it's the case of the missing T's on Harriet Street. 2 street signs on the road in Cathays have left locals confused about spellings. Sophie Bott has more.
At the end of this road, we're on Harriet Street with 1 T, but if we walk all the way to the other end, we're on Harriet Street with 2 T's. Local historians say this could be blamed on the difference in English and Welsh spelling, or could even be traced back to Victorian illiteracy. But have the residents noticed?
I did not, no. I live on Harriet Street too as well. Okay.
That's quite mad. Yeah, I don't think it's something I would notice.
Yeah, the other day I was coming back from the shops and I noticed the one up there's 2 T's, but I didn't really think anything of it.
Now for the weather. There'll be heavy rain for a short time this evening before turning cloudy and dry again. That's all from us. Have a lovely rest of your evening. Prynhawn da.